Hello again, everybody, and here I am once again doing a Game of Thrones video. Though you may be surprised that it's not my Season 5 reviews, but I'm not planning on doing my Season 5 reviews until I get caught up, and I have only gotten the reviews done up to the first episode of Season 3, so it'll be a while before I get to my Season 5 reviews, but they will be coming eventually. I'll probably get a lot done in August because I'm going to have some time in August. But maybe before then, we shall see. Anyway, this is going to be a Game of Thrones bonus video. And if you couldn't tell by the title, it is me voicing my opinions and nothing more than my opinions. So if you don't agree with my opinions, there's no need to troll or get all defensive or argumentative, because after all, that's what an opinion is. An opinion. So anyway, as for this video, you can tell by the name, when I was not sleeping this morning, I was thinking of what would be a good idea for a Game of Thrones video, since I've been slacking off on the Game of Thrones videos because they take more time to make than my Guild Wars 2 videos. And it occurred to me that we're almost done with Season 5. And everybody's using the word endgame when it comes to Season 6 and probably 7. So the endgame obviously would inspire the biggest question, which is, who do you think should be on the Iron Throne? And as I said, it's only my opinion and some theories and ideas I had as I was sitting there and thinking about an idea for a video. So, like I said, an opinion. And as for spoilers, I might mention one or two things that reference the book, but they're not really any mind-blowing spoilers. And plus, we're at the point in the show now where I could tell you everything that happens in the next two books, or the last two books, and maybe one or two of them would actually be on the show, because they've changed it that much that book spoilers are pretty much becoming a non-issue at this point in time. But anyway, like I said, if you don't want to hear anything at all in reference to the book, you probably don't want to listen to this. But as I said, I'm not going to say anything mind-blowing about the last two books. I'm just going to mention a character who only exists in the books, and mention a plot line that is supposedly going to be taking place in Book 6, but we haven't seen any of it yet, so I don't know how it's going to go, or if it even is going to go ahead. It probably won't be on the show at all, but we don't know. Anyway, all that being said, all of the warnings out of the way, here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to go through and tell you my first choice, second choice, and on, until we get down to process of elimination and who I think might be the person who should be on the throne. And honestly, I can't for sure come to one particular answer, but I did narrow it down quite a bit. And I'm not going to mention every character in the show because it would be a 7-hour video, and I honestly don't know how long I even have. I might not even get half an hour out of this, depending on whether or not there's any interruptions or anything. But anyway, my first choice for who should be on the Iron Throne. I'll tell you who it is and why, or why they won't actually end up there. And my first choice would actually be Rhaegar Targaryen. I know. But technically, if none of the BS with Robert happened, Rhaegar would most likely be the king right now. But, as we all know, Rhaegar is dead, because Robert killed him. So, obviously, he's out of the running, although I just wanted to go on record saying Rhaegar Targaryen would have been my first choice for who to put on the Iron Throne. Knowing what we know about him, not counting Robert's version of the stories about him, and what Sansa has heard, Rhaegar would be my first choice. And, that's obviously not going to happen unless they really, really change the way things work in the show. But anyway, that being said, We can't have Rhaegar on the throne because Rhaegar is dead, but he would be my first choice. My second choice. Well, that would be Ariana Martel. Who? The show people are probably saying? Who? Exactly. Ariana Martel. Her name might be Ariane. It's either Ariane or Ariana. I'm not quite sure how it's supposed to be pronounced because, well, problem. She's not on the show. Okay? Ariana Martel is the heiress to Dorne. She is the person who's going to be in charge of Dorne if and when Doran Martell dies. She is the heir to Dorne. And in the books, like I said, there's a couple things that I'm going to mention from the books, but they're obviously not ever going to happen on the show, it looks like, because Ariana has been completely written out of the show. In the show, Ariana wanted to put Myrcella on the throne because women are equal in Dorne, and that way she would cause Cersei to have to choose between Tommen and Myrcella, and it would be a big problem for the Lannisters. And then, of course, it would eventually come out that neither Myrcella or Tommen should be on the throne, so the Lannisters would fall either way. But, yeah, that's the whole gist of what's going on with Ariana in the book. But, as I said, Ariana Martel, or Ariane, I'm not quite sure how it's supposed to be pronounced because she's not on the show, but she's not on the show, so that's the problem with her. So we can't let her be the answer to this question because the showrunners supposedly know how the story ends, and they didn't feel it was important enough to put Ariana in the show at all, no matter how many of us love her, but they obviously don't think she's important enough to be on the show, nor do they think that the whole women are equal in Dorne plotline is important, nor do they think putting Myrcella on the throne plotline is important, because all of those things have been removed from the show's plot, even though they all existed in the book. And I am not one of those book people. I consider myself a show watcher who read the books because I was sick of spoilers. But my one sore spot is what they've done with Dorne, or more specifically the characters in Dorne. But we'll move on from that. Anyway, so Ariana would be a good choice for me, but obviously it's not going to be her because she's been completely cut from the show. So, my next choice would have been, past tense, would have been Daenerys Targaryen. Yes, Daenerys, not Daenerys, that sounds like a disease, it's Daenerys. But yeah, it would have been Daenerys Targaryen. Until this current season, when they have decided they're going to basically try to convince everybody that she is the Mad King reborn, and she lets her dragons, who she doesn't want to kill people, and that's why she locked them up. She wants them to now kill people. Yeah, that makes sense, right? She doesn't want the dragons to eat people, so she locks them up and then feeds people to them. I'm not quite sure where the heck that came from. I don't remember that from the book. Maybe it happened in the book, but I honestly do not remember Dany feeding any people to her dragons. I know her dragons accidentally killed somebody in the book a couple times. Drogon killed the little girl, and then the other dragons killed somebody else in the book, but it was an accident. So, or not an accident, but it was basically something that Dany had nothing to do with. She didn't even know it was going on at the time. So, yeah, the show has taken it upon themselves to turn Daenerys into heiress, I guess, because now she's like watching people get burnt and eaten alive, whether or not she knows for a fact that they deserve it. But yeah, so Daenerys would have been my choice until they've decided to rewrite her as her father, which is what they seem to be doing with her this season, as of episode 5, I guess. So Daenerys would no longer be my choice, even though up until episode 505, she probably would have been my choice. 502 was a little iffy with the execution, but still, you could see what she was doing, upholding the law. But feeding people to her dragons, the dragons she locked up so they wouldn't eat people, yeah, that kind of just screwed up Daenerys' storyline forever and eternally, in my opinion. So, yeah, Daenerys would no longer be my next choice. So, another person whose characters are changing a lot is Stannis. And the reason I mention Stannis is because he's really good at burning people alive. Yeah, everybody seems to forget that. Oh, he had a sweet conversation with his daughter. Let's forget the fact that he burns people alive just for not agreeing with him. So yeah, that would be why Stannis would not be on my list. I just figured I'd include him for the people that say, what about Stannis? Well, that's what about Stannis. Stannis burns people alive. And how could I say I support Stannis when I'm saying that Dany burning people alive is what has made me stop supporting her? So, yeah. Stannis burns people alive. He's not going to be a good leader. Next case. I mean, we're not even talking about the Shadow Demon baby assassins. We're not even going to mention those. He would basically start the Inquisition all over again and burn anybody alive who didn't agree with his girlfriend's little theories and whatever. And no thank you, Stannis. Goodbye, Stannis. Now, Shireen, I could see being a good leader once she grows up, but, well, I'm pretty sure that since we had that touching, sweet conversation between Stannis and Shireen, and it's been hinted at clean since last season 4, that, Shireen's probably about to get barbecued by Stannis' lovely little girlfriend, Melisandre, so she probably won't be in the running either, because Melisandre's most likely going to be killing her soon. I mean, that's not a spoiler because it never happened in the book, but they've been hinting at it since season 4, so I don't think that's a spoiler. That's probably what's going to be happening. She's going to try to kill Shireen by burning her, sacrificing her, bleeding her, something. It's Melisandre, you never know with her. But anyway, so all those being said, man, who does this leave us with? Well, this leaves us with my final 4 choices for who should be on the throne. And I said I couldn't quite decide on one person for sure, although there's one that probably stands out. But there's 4 that I could see having a good chance of being a good leader, so to speak. And those final 4, and probably one of them you're going to be like, what? Because it's a character who's only had like 2 or 3 lines on the show. But I'm going by book knowledge as well and hoping they eventually do this person's plot line the way it's supposed to be done in the book, but I have my doubts, so that's why I have to give backup choices. But my final 4 choices for people that might be very good at ruling, and yes, some of these you're probably going to not agree with, but oh well, like I said, it's an opinion. But my final 4 would be Jon Snow, Tyrion Lannister, Bran Stark, and Nymeria Sand, Lady Nym. Yeah, that's what I said. Okay? Now, go with me here. Just go with me. I've got reasons, I do. So, yeah, I've left out some people. Yeah, there's Littlefinger, who is plotting and planning and getting more and more power, but screw him, he's an asshole. We'll just move on from him. He's a jerk, and nobody wants him in charge. As Varys said, he would burn the 7 kingdoms to the ground as long as he could be king of the ashes. So, screw you, Littlefinger. I don't care how planning and cunning and sly and manipulative you are. You suck, and you shouldn't win. Okay. And yes, I like Arya, too. I do like Arya. She is one of my favorite characters. But I did leave her out of the final 4, because I don't honestly see her as any kind of leader. She's a cool character, yes, but she's not the leader type at all, I don't think. I couldn't see her ever wanting to be in charge of the 7 kingdoms, and I doubt if she'd take the job even if it were offered to her. She's just not that type of person. So, I mean, nothing makes a bad leader like somebody who doesn't want to be leader, and I honestly don't think Arya wants to be a leader. I think she wants to do her own thing and get her revenge and not be in charge of 7 kingdoms worth of people. She's not that kind of a power-hungry person, so no, we're not including Arya in this final list, okay? And yes, there's Varys. Varys is really good at playing the game and manipulating and moving things from place to place and putting them where he thinks they should be, and he does have the interests of the realm in mind, we're told over and over again. This is true, and I think Varys would be a good choice, except for the fact that, again, like Arya, I don't think Varys would want the job. I honestly don't think he would want the job. I mean, right now, what's he trying to do? He's trying to put other people in places of power, people that he thinks should be in power. He's not saying, oh, I want to be in power. a la Littlefinger. He's saying, no, these people should be in power, this person should be in power, and this person should help them. So I don't think that he would want the job either. So that's why I didn't put him in the final four. And another person like that, who I think is a really decent person in the show, and probably would have good intentions in most things, would be Davos Seaworth. Now, I don't like Stannis, but I do like Davos. I know, strange. But again, Davos, I just see him as way too humble to want that job either. So as much as I like Davos, I don't think I would want him in charge. And I forgot to grab a picture of Samwell, but I don't think that Samwell would want to be in charge either. Although he might be good at it to some degree, I think he'd be better utilized as a maester, which book people know that seems to be the plan for him in the book, and they're kind of hinting at it in the show. But again, Davos and Sam, good guys, reasonably decent human beings, but I don't think either of them would really want the responsibility of the throne. I mean, there's a lot of people that probably wouldn't want the responsibility, but them, I just don't see taking it, even if it were offered to them somehow. Now, my second choice was Ariana, but yeah, what about Doran? Let's talk about him. Since we can't have Ariana, since she has disappeared from the show completely, let's talk about Doran. Now, he has this, he does have some very good qualities of a leader, which are not obvious at all if you haven't read the book. But he's sickly, and he probably isn't going to last too long, so let's not spend too much time talking about him, basically because they seem to have canceled out everything having to do with the Dornish Master Plan as well, considering they got rid of Ariana and Quentyn, who were two big parts of the Dornish Master Plan, which I really liked in the book, but they haven't even hinted at that on the show, and they got rid of Ariana, so I don't see Doran being a player either, other than the fact that, you know, he's probably not going to be around long, because that's not a spoiler. He isn't dead in the books yet or anything, but it's been made obvious that he's a sick man, and he's not going to be around for very long, so we'll move on from him. Now, some may say, what about that Maggie the Frog prophecy about the younger queen? And a lot of people think that is Margaery, who is technically the queen at the moment, I suppose. Now, I will go on record as saying, no, I don't like Margaery. Okay? I do not like Margaery. And I never will like Margaery, I don't think. As she's nothing but a less acerbic Cersei. Honestly, she's two-faced, she's manipulative, she only wants power for power's sake. And though she may have good intentions, they all also may just be part of her little sweet girl act. We don't really know what she wants for sure other than to be the queen, you know? And she obviously lies to everyone and everybody about what she's really like, which is exactly what Cersei does. They just do it in two completely different ways. So no, I am not a Margaery fangirl like so many people out there are Margaery fanboys, or fangirls, I guess, but yeah, I'm not into the Margaery thing. I don't like her, and I think she's two-faced and manipulative and just like Cersei, but goes about it in a different way. But moving on to the other person that a lot of people think is the younger queen that will cast Cersei down, a lot of people think that it may be Sansa. So, yeah, people put Sansa forward as this, and no. I cannot deal with Sansa being in charge. Yeah, she's being forced to grow a backbone now that she's Mrs. Bolton, but no, she's not a leader type in my mind at all. Still, she spent way too many years as a doormat. She's letting that jerk Littlefinger manipulate her every move, and yeah, we've covered him. He's a jerk. We don't want him in charge, and we don't want his little pawn in charge either, because that's all I see Sansa as now, is Littlefinger's little pawn. Yeah, she is growing up a lot because of her lovely wedding night, but she she gives in too easily. She backs down too easily. She doesn't have enough of a spine to be a leader. I mean, yeah, she's getting more of a spine now, but I will not get over the first 4 years and how she let herself be used and she just backed down, and the whole turning on her own family, which they cut most of out of the show. But yeah, she told Arya that Arya should be dead instead of the dog. She's the one that told Cersei that Ned was planning on leaving. I wouldn't trust her as leader. No, thank you. No, Sansa, you're out. You've disqualified yourself by going to bed, figuratively, if not literally, with Littlefinger. So no, it's guilt by association. If you're letting Littlefinger control anything you do, you obviously are not a person I want in charge. Thank you. Next, let's move on. Now, let's get down to my final four again. Jon, Tyrion, Bran, and yes, Nym. Now, let's talk about the one that I doubt will make most people's list. That's Nymeria Sand, or Nym, as they call her in the show. Why, you ask, do I have Nym on this list? It seems like a very strange choice, yes. Now, I wanted Arianna, but her being out, I'm trying not to let myself hope for that, but I'm still Team Martell. And we covered Doran, and one thing is that she's a female, and all of the show seems to have forgotten that fact that females are equal in Dorne. She is the daughter of Oberyn, who was the leader of Dorne's brother. So, she is Doran's niece, by blood. Even if she is illegitimate, she is Doran's niece by blood, so it shouldn't be that hard to get her legitimized. I mean, if somebody like Ramsay can get legitimized, then, yeah. Give Nymeria a piece of paper. Now, the reason I like Nym, even though most people probably don't even know or recognize who she is, and she's only had like 3 lines in the show, but if you have read the books, you know a little bit more about Nymeria. Like Arya, she's a badass, but unlike Arya, she seems like she would know how to how to navigate political waters. And the reason I say that, it may not be obvious to non-readers, since it hasn't happened on the show yet, but where we leave Nymeria at the end of the books is she is being sent to King's Landing to fill the role of her father, Oberyn, on the small council. So obviously they think that she's pretty capable of navigating that cesspool of the King's Landing politics. So she is somebody who's against the Lannisters, somebody who is a badass who can stand up for herself, and she's somebody who can get around the whole political minefield that is being in King's Landing from what we've been led to believe. We haven't seen her in King's Landing yet, but that's where she's being sent. So it's a pretty good bet that she could handle herself there. And I really hope that comes to pass. Although I really doubt that it will, considering they've changed the entire goal of the Sand Snakes and they just want to kill Myrcella now instead of actually put her on the throne, which is what their original plan was in the books. But that is why I put Nymeria in here. And you're saying, well, what about Obara? Obara is older. Yes, Obara is older, but Obara is not the political type. She is the beat people to death first, ask questions later type. And although I like her, I don't see that being the kind of person that could make a good leader. And they're insinuating that Nymeria could get around the intrigue that is in King's Landing, and that's why I've picked her. So, and Tyene, Tyene's the third one, who's totally different in the book as well, but Tyene pretends like she's like Sansa, but she's really not, so she might be a alternate option. She plays nice and pretends to be all sweet while she's stabbing you, or poisoning you, or whatever. So, Tyene might be an alternate choice, but Nymeria's older, and I do like Nymeria better, and the fact that she's supposed to be on the council gives me hope that she could actually handle those King's Landing type of people. Now, moving on to the second person in my final four, that would be Bran. And you may think that Bran's also an odd choice, since most people thought his plot line was boring because it took forever. But hear me out. I'm not just saying this because he has, because of his very first prophecy that he ever had, which wasn't in the show, but it was when he was falling, and the crow was talking to him as he was falling out of the tower. And the three-eyed crow, the three-eyed raven, he said to Bran, "Now you know," the crow whispered as it sat on his shoulder, "now you know why you must live." So that's pretty much a big, big red flag that they're planting seeds that Bran is very important. And yeah, this could be the whole green seer thing, but it's in there for a reason, I think. I mean, obviously it's not on the show because they've cut out almost all the prophecy, but the show has at least went into Bran's powers now. And that's another reason that I think that he might be able to do the leadership role. It's not just because he's technically the heir to the largest of the Seven Kingdoms, because he is technically the heir over Sansa. And it's not just because he's a Stark, okay? Because, most people, I just love Starks, period, no matter what. But it's not just because of those two things. It's because he not only legitimately seems like a good moral person, but with his burgeoning powers, he'll not only have the ability to control other living things, like maybe dragons, after all, he will fly, but also because his powers, the very fact of his powers, they give him the ability to see the past, the present, and the future. Now, I think that would be a pretty darn good skill for the leader of the Seven Kingdoms. Don't you think that would be a pretty darn good skill to have if you were going to be leading the Seven Kingdoms? It would come in quite handy, I think, that Bran could make a very good leader because of his powers and because he seems like a good person. So, and he is a male heir to the largest of the Seven Kingdoms, so it's not completely beyond the realm of possibility. I don't think it'll happen, but it's not completely beyond the realm of possibility. So that's why I included him in the final four. Now, of course, my third person in the final four is Tyrion Lannister, of course. Who wouldn't put him in the final four? I mean, seriously, it's Tyrion Lannister. It's pretty much a no-brainer, as everyone loves Tyrion, and they know he's super intelligent, and he knows exactly how to play the game. And honestly, the only argument against Tyrion ruling is that he might actually be Tywin's kid. Haha. Now, that's pointing at a theory, okay? People that say, well, Tyrion can't be in charge, he's not an heir. Okay, but there is this theory out there that actually was given more weight in the world of Ice and Fire, that Tyrion might not actually be Tywin's kid. And I'm not saying I believe this, but it's a possibility. Basically, Aerys had a thing for Joanna, and there was insinuations that around a year before Tyrion was born, Joanna and Tywin were in King's Landing, and Aerys might have done something questionable with Joanna, which leaves the possibility open. Of course, it was against Joanna's will, but it still leaves the possibility open that, yes, Tyrion might actually have a legitimate claim on the throne if he were to be legitimized, or if they just got rid of this whole bastards can't rule thing and just go by blood, period. Because, I mean, look at the Blackfires. Look at the Blackfires. But anyway, so yeah, obviously it's a no-brainer. Tyrion would make a wonderful leader. He may not want it at first, but I think he'd probably come around to the idea. I honestly do. Just like he came around to the idea of being Hand, and he was pretty darn good at that as well. But anyway, that was my third of my final four. And my fourth choice, and the one that I really, 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 really like the idea of, although I have my doubts that it will happen, although they might have other things planned for him. Not necessarily Iron Throne things, but other things. But my fourth choice for my final four is Jon Snow. Jon Stark. Jon Targaryen. What shall we call him today? Anyway, he is already a leader. He's honestly trying to save the realm from its biggest threat. And yeah, For the Watch is most likely gonna happen, but if you don't know what that means, you'll figure it out probably in the next 2 episodes. But anyway, but even if the For the Watch scene happens, it's not the most terrible thing in the world if Melisandre can get back to the Wall in time. Because all the signs and the prophecies, if they come true, then of course it would be Jon, who is indeed Azor Ahai, the prince who was promised, the embodiment of the Song of Ice and Fire. Who better to rule than him? Seriously. I mean, he may not go in the direction of ruling, he might just save the world and then give the throne to somebody else, which I could see Jon doing. I mean, he already gave up Winterfell, but he would be the perfect person if all the prophecies and dreams and all that and all the signs are true, and the Azor Ahai, Prince that was promised, Song of Ice and Fire thing actually comes to pass, which I really hope it does, because they've been dropping a lot of R plus L equals J, yes, that's true, hints. I'm not saying yes, it's true, but they've been dropping a lot of hints that make you think that it is. So anyway, that would be my final 4 choices. Now, I don't know how confident I am that any of those 4 will actually be on the Iron Throne. Probably not. But at the same time, as much as I'd like to see one of those 4 be on the Iron Throne, I think it's probably going to be something completely different in the end, and that maybe there won't be any Iron Throne left at all. And maybe the 7 Kingdoms will go back to being 7 Kingdoms, just like it started out and just how it was meant to stay. But you never know, unless you're George or Dave and Dan. So, who allegedly know, and allegedly are going to make it happen. So I guess we'll just have to hang out and see. But honestly, I think the Iron Throne is going to go away, and they're going to go back to being 7 kingdoms with their own rulers. That would be the ultimate way of having more than one winner, and I think that would be a good ending for the show, the books, whatever. But I guess the only way we'll know is to wait and see, and that's my thoughts on the matter. Bye all.